It's Friday and I've been busy making my Moda blocks this week. This is block number 3 and they're finished. I can't wait to show you. I'm Lea Louise from Inspired Quilting by Lea Louise, and I hope you'll join me with the Moda Quilt Along. There's free patterns every week and it's a wonderful learning experience. It's a great way to learn how to do individual piecework and blocks and maybe some different techniques you haven't learned before. But I'm enjoying it and I want to show you what I did. So let's go ahead and take a look. And here we are, Moda Blockheads week 3, and I have the Shimmer Star pattern here that I just downloaded yesterday, and I'm working on my blocks. So what we have is a friendship star, and you can see those large half square triangles here creating the friendship star. But instead of it just being a half square triangle, it's a quarter square because the other side is split in two. So that makes it very interesting, and it gives you a little more flexibility with some color there. Now, in the corners, we have 4 patches. That's easy enough. And in the center, we have a square and a square. So this is not a complicated pattern. It's quite simple. It's laid out very well. And again, the blocks are sized, so when you cut them, they're just a little bit bigger than what you need. So when we need to do the trimming, we have enough extra fabric. We don't have to worry about coming up short, which can sometimes happen when you're dealing with diagonal seams. So the first step, I'm just going to put this here so I make sure I follow, is to create your 4 patches in the corner. Now, generally it's 2 colors, but I'm going to go with 3. So these will be my background. This will be the outermost corner, and this will be the innermost corner. So those are going to be just a little bit different. Now, what I've done is we're working with 2.5-inch squares. So I used charm squares and I sewed them down the side. Remember, this is how we make a 4-patch with charm squares, is sewing them like that. And then what we do is we have a 1/4 inch and a 1/4 inch, if you can see that up close, and then we cut down the middle. Don't cut from crossways from seam to seam. You want to cut in line with the seams, parallel to them. And then when you do that, this is what it looks like. And we open it up and get a pretty little pair of rails, basically. But now what we're going to do is cut this, and here we go with my 2.5-inch ruler. I don't have to use the mat, which makes it a quick sew. And here we are. So I will go ahead and put these so that I have my pieces like this. So this is going to be the constant dark block that goes out in the corners. And then I'm going to have an inner block and an outer block. So this is how I'm going to make my 4 square for the corners. So that was my first step. Then the second thing I did was make the center square in a square. And that was simply adding a short piece on each side of my center square and then 2 longer pieces, not unlike you do with a log cabin. And so everything measures 4.5 inches when we get to this point. Now, to do the quarter squares, we are used to half square triangles, and what we would normally do is put 2 together and sew them. But in this case, we're going to change things up a little. So we have a large square that we cut into a diagonal into a triangle, and then we have 2 smaller ones, and these we're going to join together in order to create this unit. Now, the thing you need to be careful of when you're sewing these, and you know it's always from experience that I speak with these situations, is that this dark side is always on this side. So where your square corner comes on the large triangle, you want the dark square to be opposite over here on the left side. So you have your square corner on the right and the darker triangle over on the left. And you want all 4 of them to be exactly the same in order for the pattern to work out. So we will take our smaller triangles and we're going to sew them down the side. Let me show you here. Instead of sewing from here to here, we sew it from here to here. And that's how we get our half square triangle. So we would take this one here and put it together here. And what you want to do is one side's probably going to be larger than the other. And in this case, it's this piece here. And we're going to line our point up with that seam right there, because that's the center. And you can bring it in a little bit just to make sure we have enough trimming on the sides. And then we're going to sew this seam down on the bottom. And when we do that, this is where we are. And with that sewn, then we're going to come in and trim. So let me show you how to trim your quarter square triangles. You want to make sure that you press your block well before you trim it so it's nice and flat. And we're going to cut it at 4.5 inches. Now, I recently did some half square triangles that were 4.5 inches. So I have this line. Let me put it on the paper so you can see it. You see that line? It's a piece of Scotch tape I put on the back, and I drew a line from 4.5 to 4.5. And that way I know that's where my diagonal line needs to be. So when I put this together, let's see, let me get this in the right place. Here we are. Have to get in the right the right angle here. My blue line goes this way, and then my 45 line that is on my ruler is going to go this direction. So see how I have that angle right there? Let me get the paper again. So right here is the line I drew, and this is the 45 line on the ruler. That point right there where they intersect each other, that needs to be right here on this point of the quilt block. So I'm going to lay my blue line from side to side, and I have to find it. There it is. Blue on blue is hard to see. And then this line needs to be on that seam. So I'm going to put my 45 on that seam, and I'm going to put my blue line right here. So I'm going to go from 4.5 inches, and on this side 4.5 inches. And I have almost 4 3/4, so I have plenty of room. And when I'm done with this side, I'm going to trim the other edge as well. So I'm just going to use my rotary cutter, cut around both sides, and then I'm going to turn it this way. Now this, I'm not so worried about lining anything up other than this line. I've already measured this, so as long as this is on my blue line that I drew, and I do that just so I remember it's 4.5 inches, because it can be easy to get yourself turned around and grab the wrong dimension and cut it the wrong size, and that's not what we want to do. So I'm going to cut this side here and there. And so now I have a beautiful quarter square triangle. And so this is going to go together with a center block. And then this is going to create the friendship star. There'll be 4 of those. And then my blocks, my 4 patches, will be on the outside around the edges. So I'm going to put this together and show you what it looks like. But let me give you a sneak peek of the little one I made. So this week I was able to also do the 6-inch. And look at that. Oh my gosh, that is so sweet. I've never made quilt blocks this small with these tiny pieces. And, you know, it's a lot of fun. And it goes quick. I really appreciate that. So these are 1-inch squares. And you know, it goes a lot quicker and easier than you think it would. And what a great way to practice a technique. You get to do it slowly, and you get to go through and work the dimensions and trim it and cut it and just see how it all goes together. And it just helps you in the long run when you're doing larger squares or bigger projects to, you know, have this kind of experience. So I think this worked out great. If you haven't downloaded the pattern, be sure you go there. Moda Blockheads, Moda Blockheads 5. And that's it. So let me go ahead and finish this quilt, this quilt block, and I'll show you how it turns out. And here's my finished block. I like it. I just wanted to go with the contrast. This is sort of like the quilt I just made, right? The dark blue and the dots. But I really like that and bring in a little bit of this greenish teal. I want to use this throughout the quilt. I like that color. And you can see I used that on the friendship star here. So there we are. I think these are fun. It's going to be interesting to see how this quilt turns out. I really like the pattern so far, and it hasn't been difficult. It just takes a little bit of time, and I'm not used to doing a single block by itself without doing a whole lot more at once. But this is nice. Low stress, low expectations, and it's fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed this. And if you haven't downloaded your pattern yet, make sure you go there. I'll have the link down below in the description. Thanks a lot for joining me. Have a fantastic rest of your day. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks for following along.